Hey everyone, it's Kanga here, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 things you're doing wrong as Reyna. I feel like right now is a great time to make this video because in my games I'm seeing a lot of people select Reyna, and then a majority of those players go on to make the same mistakes over and over again. Now, obviously if you do play Reyna, you aren't going to find all 10 of these useful unless you've only played like a few games, but I'm confident that at least one of these will make you realize how you can improve your own gameplay. So without further ado, let's get into these tips. The first thing that I see a lot of Reynas do wrong is they're not leading into the fights. What I mean by that is they aren't the first ones from the team to push onto the site. This could be because they're new to the game, or not used to playing Reyna yet, but she's the only character in the game with a flash that's safe to your team, and you need to make sure you get the most value you can out of that by getting in front of everyone except maybe a breach, and throwing that leader up as you all push out. Being in front of your team is like the most useful thing you can do. The second thing that a lot of Reynas do wrong, and this can go for most characters really, is positioning in the same spot over and over again. It's a lot more important with Reyna, as if for example on defense you keep holding the same angle and putting your lid in the same spot, the enemy will start taking it out faster and faster each round. So make sure that you're positioning you and your lid differently each round, in order to make it harder for your enemy to predict what you're going to do at the beginning of the round. The next thing I want to talk about is playstyle. As Reyna, you need to play aggressively, as if you're not getting kills, half your abilities and most of the value of your ultimate is gone. This is a really short and self-explanatory tip, but probably one of the most important ones there is to her, as if you're not doing this, you're missing out on nearly all the value her kit has to offer. The next few tips are going to be based around her dismiss and devour orbs, and this one specifically is about which one to choose after getting a kill. The only time you want to be choosing devour, which is the healing orb, is when you can stay in line of sight of the person you've just killed for roughly 3 seconds, as that's how long it'll take to fully use the heal. This doesn't mean you need to always use dismiss. Consider how many more enemies there are in the area, as obviously you don't need to waste a charge if you aren't in danger. Also, make sure you can get into a safe spot at the end of your dismiss ability, which I'll touch on again in a bit. The next two things I'll be pointing out are basically just things that I mentioned before, but I'll be elaborating on them and just explaining them in more detail. But first off, with Reyna's devour ability, you must make sure you stay in line of sight of the body, as otherwise the healing will stop working. Obviously there are a lot of things to keep in mind as you play Valorant, but if you're playing Reyna, make sure this is one of them, as this is probably one of the most frequent mistakes I see people make. Another thing to note is that enemies can see exactly where you are if you're healing as Reyna, as if they can see the body, there's a long line trailing from the orb to your exact location. So keep that in mind and be careful where you peek after healing. I also wanted to touch on dismiss again, as a lot of people don't realize that you can't shoot your gun immediately after coming out of dismiss. So don't go ending it out in the open and be surprised when you're dead before you can even shoot back. It's really easy to track where Reyna is going when she uses dismiss without her ultimate, so keep an eye on where your enemies are when you're using it. When you're in an ultimate however, when you go completely invisible, it's a bit of a different story. Well, yeah, obviously you are invisible. During the short delay between becoming visible again and actually being able to shoot, Reyna will laugh, and that laugh can be heard by any nearby enemy players. So don't try going behind a smart place when you're visible as Reyna, because they'll hear that and just 180 you before you can actually shoot them. As I mentioned earlier with her LEER, it's completely safe for your team and is the only flash that does that. Phoenix, Breach and Omen's flashes all blind their allies as well as the enemies, yet Reyna's doesn't affect her allies at all, making it such a strong tool to engage with as a team. With this in mind, make sure you aren't using this ability too carefully, as you don't need to worry about also blinding your teammates. At least, that's how it is. I'm not sure if they'll nerf it in the future and make it so it does blind allies, but I think right now it's mid-June, and that's how it works at the moment. Another thing with LEER is to make sure you're positioning it well. Generally the higher up the better, as people hiding behind boxes will also get blinded, and in general it'll affect a larger area. But you also need to keep in mind that people holding really close angles won't be affected by this. For example, if you're holding Bind's B site up here as Reyna, one thing you'd normally probably like to do is throw a LEER out here. This is great normally because all these people are pushing up and they're all blind and just free shots, right? But what some people have started doing, and I do it myself when I'm attacking B side, is if you hold this really tight angle right here, that flash obviously isn't going to affect you at all because it'll be like way out here or whatever, and that's not going to affect you. So just be careful with that. Make sure that if you know where people are peeking, make sure that the bind actually hits them. So for example here, you want to be putting it like there or something that's like, I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Just make sure that the LEER actually hits them instead of just covering the most area, because that's not always the best way to go. So if that was a bit confusing. This is more of a tip for going against Reynas, but make sure you shoot out their LEER when you see it. 95% of the time it means that the Reyna on dead team or someone else is going to peek out. So once there's a corner for you to go around straight away, try to shoot it out as it only has 100 HP. There's been way too many times I've seen people run away from it when they easily could have broken it and killed them, but they end up just dying themselves obviously. To wrap it up, I want to talk about her ultimate Empress and how frequently you use it. As a character that relies on kills to make your kit work, you're likely going to be getting a lot of kills as Reyna. So if you don't use it in the round you get it, use it the round after. As between your aggressive playstyle, ultimate orbs and the spike, you consistently get it every 3 or so rounds if you're playing well. And yeah, I've seen so many people hold on to it for like 12 rounds even, because they're looking to make a really nice flashy play with it, but obviously it only takes a kill or 2 to completely change the tide of a round. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. If you did find it useful at all, please leave a like and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell, as I've got a lot of exciting stuff planned in the next few weeks for both Fortnite and Valorant. But yeah, that's it for now.